Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I am here today to discuss some important things about how you can invest your time in a better way and look at the habits. We're going to get inside the habit today because it's those habits that really create our level of productivity that drive our success. And today we have an habit expert with us. Dan LeFave is here, and he is the no excuse shortcut to success coach and mindset engineer. I like that, mindset engineer. Since 2012, he's helped entrepreneurs to cut the time that it takes to succeed and to reach their goals in half the time and boost their productivity at that time. He's been featured in national publications, including Business Magazine and Success Profiles Magazine, and interviewed on radio shows and podcasts from New York to UK. Dan, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Penny. Thank you.
So, Dan, the habit guy, right? So many people, we all have habits, right? So the question is how do we, if we've been having a habit that we've been engaging in, year after year. So maybe it's a habit we've had for 10, 20 years. How do we change a habit like that?
Well, the first thing is that we have to recognize that there's something that we're doing that isn't comfortable. We might not call it a habit, but if we see the same thing over and over again, that is a clear indication that we are repeating some sort of pattern, and it's a habit. So as an example,
anything that we repeat is a habit.
Yes. Yeah. And, and like you said in your videos and your interviews, we are habit bearing creatures. We can't help ourselves, right? Like we start doing something and then it becomes natural. And then, next, commuting is a habit, and we just do it. And we don't even.
Not only that, but what's really funny? You just made me think of this. It's like we sit in the same seat too. Like if you get on a bus or you get on the train, right? We sit in the same seat. We go in a classroom, we sit in the same seat. We are creatures of habit.
Yeah. Well, and you know what it comes down to? It's comfort. And the interesting thing, we're having this conversation today, which is, so many people are uncomfortable. They're locked in their houses. They can't get out there.
Right.
There's so much, of this discomfort right now, which is what we need. But yeah, the habit is all about comfort. It's what's familiar, and it's based on, and also know this, like our habits are based on what we know, what's relevant. And so that's our past. And so we do what's familiar because then we can predict how we're going. That's our predictable future. We know how we're going to feel if we sit in that same spot. We do the same thing over and over again. We know it's predictable. It's comfortable. And I see it all the time. You talk about it. My wife does yoga, and people come in to do yoga at our house, and so you always see, somebody showing up early. Why? They want their spot.
Right.
Why? Familiar, comfortable. They know it. They're in the corner. Nobody's going to crowd them. Right. And then.
Right. And in my work with Tony Robbins, he talks about that we have these 7 human needs, and one of them is certainty, right? So I think it gives us certainty to know, that we've got that spot, or like you said, that we can estimate what's going to happen in the future, and keep it.
But then, one day something happens, and we're like, all right, that didn't feel good, And actually, I had an awakening where it actually took me on the path to where I am today, which is, my wife was having a second child. We were having a second child, and I was working for an organization that allowed parental leaves. And in fact, our first child was born, and I didn't even know about the parental leave. I took 2 weeks vacation and worked the whole time because of habit. That was habit, right? And, I was off and I was on my computer. But that second child, I was talking with the HR department. I found out, they'll give me 36 weeks with almost 100% pay.
Wow.
And I was like, well then, don't say any more, right? So I took it, but at the tail end of that 36 weeks, wow, did I ever have an awakening. In fact, I emailed the HR and I was like, I have some vacation. I'm going to top it off so I don't have to come back until the new year, right? And it was really, eating at me. And I was like, you know what? I'm commuting 3 hours. I'm away from my family.
Oh, wow,
and
that's a long time.
That's not a good investment. And, it really caused something to awaken inside of me. And that's where I started asking friends, and, friends were, what do you want? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, what do you really want? And I said, well, I want to be inspired and be with my family. And they said, well, pray for that. And I did. And then that led me on a path of meeting people like Dave Blanchard of Augmendino organization, and then Bob Proctor, and then, hiring him to coach me, and, just a whole string of events, just because I said, I don't want to do that anymore. In fact, I went to another job because I was, my vibration said, I'm not happy. And I got recruited. And I went over there. They paid me a lot more money, and fantastic. But within 3 weeks, that probationary period, they invited me to the boardroom and said, "Not working." And I knew it. I felt it, but I didn't know, and I admit it, right? But then, So anyway, I went home and I just, I turned my life around. But that was a real awakening, because I was like 3 hours a day of my life, every day, times 5 days a week, and that's 15 hours a week and away from my family. That's not for me. So that was a habit.
No, I mean, think about how many hours that is a year.
Yeah.
That's, that's a job in itself.
Yeah. So, and that was the kind of awakening. So that's what I'm talking about. If we recognize our habits, and especially if something irritates us or bothers us, and we have to, take note of it. I always say that thoughts become entangled as they pass through your lips and over fingertips. So that's why I suggest writing things down. So when something's not going well, write it down. And sometimes you might take that marker and hold it like this and carve it out on the whiteboard or your mirror or whatever. It's a dry erase marker.
Right.
Don't use permanent. But just get those thoughts out, because once you get them out and you look at them, it's like a little mind map, and it's like, okay, this is going on. I don't like this. This is not working out. This is feeling uncomfortable. Then that's an awakening right there. It's like, okay, that's a habit or a practice I'm doing that isn't working, and I have to do something different.
So how do we do that? How do we identify the habits that aren't working for us and the habits that are, right? Because some habits are good and we want to continue those habits because they're supporting us, and others aren't. How do we define the difference?
Well, it comes down to how we feel. And again, we have to be aware of how we feel. And not everybody is quite tuned into that, but you have to be aware that when something happens, and it might not be during, I think of it like this, you don't tell an alcoholic, hey, you've been drinking while they're drinking. They're just like, I'm not drunk. And, you have to, sometimes go through the emotional reaction that you might have because you're repeating a habit. And then afterwards you have the revelation, and you're like, okay, wait. And then I suggest writing that down, journal it, write down how you're feeling, what the thoughts were. And then that helps you pivot. And you need that pivoting. If you don't have a pivot or some sort of rude awakening, like my father, goes in the hospital to take out his gallbladder, and they say, you got to quit smoking, you're going to kill yourself. Well, cold turkey, he quit. Why? Because the doctor gave him that bit of evidence that said, got to change. So if we see the evidence ourselves, then we have to do something about it. We can't just say, well, that just happened again, and I've seen it many, many times, and I feel horrible.
So what I hear you saying, it's not only how we feel, right? Because a lot of people who smoke don't want to quit smoking. It's you said evidence-based. So I call it that we have to get in relationship with our results. And I think that's what you're saying, right? It's how do we feel, but also, how do we feel about the results that we're getting, right? Because of course my kids would tell you that playing video games all day feels good. Right. But if it's at the impact of something else, right? If you take a look at the cost, and the cost is, your grades declining, or not having friends, to engage with, or something, for them. Right. And for us as adults, are we really getting the results that we're looking for? That's what shook you up, is you weren't, you were noticing that you were away from your family, and it's that result that really shook you, right? That evidence that you were spending more time away from home.
Well, and also I projected into the future, and then I started thinking to myself, wow, where's this going to lead to? And am I going to grow up with my children? Are they going to value me as a father? And, so I started asking these deep questions.
Yeah.
And, as I start getting no's and irritated, that's the whole point. You have to get irritated and agitated enough to change a habit. I mean, nobody creates a New Year's resolution and then hits the gym and then sticks to it. Hardly anybody does that. In fact, I used to teach spinning at the gym for 12 years. And I would actually be so in people's face. I would sit there on a spin bike and I would say, I bet you will not be here in 3 months. And
Right.
I had to be that way because I saw it time and time again that where
Right.
people come in and, I couldn't say, oh, well, keep it going. It's like, I bet you won't be here.
Right, right. Push, right? It's that challenge and that push. And I like what you're saying is that it's what it's costing you and that you looked into the future. And I think for everybody who's listening, who thinks that there's a habit that they might just think that it's not serving them, is really look into the future and see what it's costing you and see if you can afford or if that's what you want for your life to take on those costs. And you're right, that usually creates that energy, right, that says not another day, I have to change this now.
Hmm. Well, that's the words that usually come out is enough.
Enough.
I've had enough. It's enough, or I've had enough. And
Oh.
it's, yeah, as soon as you've had enough, then guess what? That's enough of a push to get you moving. And
Hmm.
then you have to find the thing that pulls you. So I found the thing that was pulling me, being inspired to be with my family. The push was commuting and being away from,
Hmm.
investing my time and energy in getting to a space where actually I didn't even need to be. I could just do it, remotely. Um, you know, so that's the kind of thing. And it just takes that little edge, that little nudge. As soon as that happens, right, then you start to pivot. But you're going to have to grasp onto something, and that's where people grab onto a personal trainer or a coach like you and I, or
Yeah,
somebody that can, show them the path that says, hey, look, I've
absolutely.
been here before. I've done this before, and you could just come with me, and I'll take you along, right?
Right.
And
That's why, like you say, it's a shortcut to success, is that the path to guide them down, and then that way you can get them down the path faster.
yeah, and the unique thing is, like, at least I don't study everything about psychology, but the special thing that I focus on is I find out how quick people are willing to move, and then I subtly make adjustments because my interpretation is that beliefs are really, really strongly rooted, and I can't just tell somebody, "Hey, this is what I do. You do it." I have to make them subtly
Hmm.
understand something, and then maybe and get a vision for it. Usually, a vision or a fantasy of what that looks like,
Hmm.
and then plant the little seed, get them doing a little step at a time. And then next thing you know, like one of my clients, Brad, he wanted to break 1 million in his business, but he also wanted to get his health where he needed to be. And he took 36 pounds off as a result of rearranging mental furniture. And that was totally unexpected, but
Right.
amazing.
Right. That's awesome. Well, that's the path to success,
Yeah.
is shifting those beliefs and getting into action.
Hmm.
So let me ask you, in habits and as they relate to productivity, what's your definition of productivity and why?
Well, the definition of productivity, good question, by the way. And I haven't been hit with that one before or in a while. But, my definition of productivity is how much free time I have with my family. That's for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have young children. I have, under 12, I have 3 boys. And so, I measure it based on how much free time I get to spare with them or to enjoy with them. And I measure that daily. So I write that in my journal on a daily basis. So I track it so that I can look back on it and connect the dots and see, oh, well, this is, today was great. Why? Well, because we took a walk in nature. We played some cards at noontime. We played cards later, or whatever the case may be. But that's my definition, because family is really important to me.
So you're very intentional about creating what's important to you.
Yes. Yes. And blocking time off, so my noontime is a combination of meditation for me. So something for me, but then some game time with my family, or now we're doing walks because
Uh-huh.
it was nice out and they can get on their
Yeah.
skateboards and so on. But, that's the thing, is doing something they enjoy so they can reflect back, because there's something that I teach in my book, which is all about, creating your life, reverse engineering your life, which is all about, how do I want to be remembered by my family, my children, my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can just create little memories each and every day, guess what? That's going to
Right.
compound and become a big memory one day. And I know that. So it's the incremental, moment by moment things that I focus my attention on.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I was uh, at an after the funeral gathering for a friend of mine's father, and what really struck me about what everyone said, people went around the room to share a memory of him,
Mhm.
and that's was so clear and so motivating that they all talked about the level of presence that he had with each and every one of them, and how they really felt that when they were together, that they were the only one in the world, that he made them feel special because of the presence that he gave them. And I think, that it really shook me, and it shook my boyfriend up to really think about, what is it that we're creating? How will we be remembered? And are we, intentional about that? And I think that is, a really important and valuable question to ask before it's too late, right? I mean,
Yeah.
now we can set forth how we want to be remembered and how we want to show up. But we must be intentional about it, because there's so many distractions everywhere.
Mhm. Well, and to that point, it's about what we value and what we identify with. So I identify with what I call the 5 F's, which is faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances, in that order. So I make faith, family, friends, fitness, then finance is important. So in
Right.
that order. I don't make finances my engine of my train. I make sure that those are
Mm.
the priorities for me. And my identity, I know what my identity is because I focus my attention on it, and I intentionally live my life. It cost me 2.5 hours a morning to do that, but
Well, it's
wow.
an investment. It's not a cost, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, some people might think of it as a cost. It is an investment, but it's also, I own my morning, I own my day, I own my life, and
Yeah.
that's the way I approach it.
So, what advice would you give to? There's a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening, and a lot of people like yourself that were in this habit of going to work and spending a lot of time and traveling. Not that there's anything wrong with that, if that's if the person is loving their job and doing what it is, but if they feel a slave to finance, right? That finance makes all the decisions for them. I know a lot of people feel that way, and especially today with the stress of small businesses, with the shutdown of the coronavirus and everything, that people are even more stressed around what's happening with finances. What advice and would you share with people on how to deal with that?
Well, I think the key is, and again, it's the moment by moment choices that we make and how we invest our time. And I've heard you say it in your TEDx talk, where you talked about we are habit. We're just habitual beings, and so it's a question of what are we doing with our thoughts.
Mm.
And so I would say at least get your morning under control. That's a minimum. And when I say that, it doesn't have to be what I do. I do 2.5 hours of practicing, that's reading, writing, setting intentions, physical exercise, walks in nature, also, yoga, breathing. It's taken me years to get to that though. But, I would say at least own your morning. Take the time out to get yourself physically, mentally, emotionally prepared for your day. And there's many practices and books out there. The Morning Miracle is a great one by Hal Elrod. Just do something that maybe is 15, 20 minutes at first, and then maybe it'll grow. But at first, you want to just do something that's physical, get yourself prepared mentally for your day. I even suggest preparing for your day in advance. So set 3 intentions the day before, because overnight, when we shut our conscious mind down, our subconscious mind percolates and marinates over what we set our intentions on. So we'll dream about it and maybe wake up with some solutions or ideas. So the day before, set some intentions. The day of, wake up, look at them, think about what that is. Maybe write some ideas around about that you've dreamt about or thought about or woke up with, and then do something. I think always have water as soon as you wake up. I mean, we dehydrate while we're sleeping. So
Absolutely. You just made me
I have
think about I should have some right now.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. So I have this bottle. It's ready for tomorrow morning. I've already had mine today. So I have that bottle full. I drink it. First thing, I don't guzzle it, but I just drink it.
Yeah.
But then I have a gratitude journal, and I have another journal, and just a bunch of things that I've practiced over the years. Also in the morning practice, I think you should find some time to be grateful. Think of the things you appreciate and are grateful for.
I totally agree with
It's a
that.
magnet. I think that
Yeah.
when you appreciate things, it draws things towards you because you're appreciating them. You don't appreciate your pet and then they run away from you. Right?
Right. I think, what you're saying about, win the morning, win the day kind of thing, I think is so critical, because we set the tone, right? We set the tone in the morning, and I want everybody who's listening, are you the person? And I don't mean I just want you to think about it, right? If you're the person who hits the snooze button first thing in the morning, what's the first energy that you're creating, right? Around your discipline, about what you want to create, and so forth. So, start your day in thought, in action, in intention. And, if you set the alarm for a time, I would say wake up at that time. And if that's 15 minutes later than when your alarm normally goes off, great, then set it for 15 minutes later. Right. But I like your idea of really set three things to be intentional about, include gratitude and anything that sets your mind up for the energy that you want to create that day.
Hmm. Yeah, and get your focus, because otherwise the world is going to be whirling around us and things are going to come, and then we will be in reaction mode, because that's what happens when things come at us. We respond and solve problems, just
Right.
in nature, just natural. It's just
It's
natural
all
for us.
day firefighting, right? Everybody, I'm sure people can appreciate that. All day firefighting.
Yeah. Instead, set your day up for success, and own it. Own your morning, own your day. And, as you go throughout your day and you realize the things that you intended to do start happening. And that's where I say, look for the evidence. So then you see the evidence and then you're like, oh, well, great. And then that's relevance. So then once we have relevance, that's a memory. And then next time we go to do something, we won't, be nearly as frightened about it, or
Right.
holding back. We'll just say, okay, well, I've done this before. Felt
Right.
good. It might work again. I'll do it. And then that's it.
Right.
It's like running a marathon, it's like I started off with 5 kilometers, then 10, then 20, then, whatever.
Right. That's
Then,
the
well,
traction.
miles.
That's absolutely. It builds, right? That's the traction that it creates. Well, I remember you saying that you've got a free gift for everybody. So what is that? What is that gift, and where can they get it?
Well, it is some work that I've done on and research about 7 time-saving secrets. And I found these to be the best. And, they're just about, how you can get a little more control, some more edge over your leverage over your time and your day. Because again, it's the moment by moment choices. If we're 70, 80,000 thoughts a day, and habits, we're not getting inside of our habit gap. We're just repeating these habits over and over and over again. And so the 7 time saving secrets is at danlefave.com forward slash save time now. And so you can grab that for free, and it's an awesome tool. It's a report, so it gives you everything in it. And if you just put one thing into practice, just one little thing, it's going to change your life. I guarantee it. These aren't things that I've just pulled out of the internet. Or out of some book.
Right.
I researched them, tested them. I'm like in my own little lab here. I do experiments all the time, and I'll test it for months on end. I'm just unique that way, I guess you could say, or weird.
Well, you're passionate about it, right? So you got to get inside it, right? That's your thing. Get inside the habit, get inside, right? And really understand it from the inside out.
Yeah, yeah, and just and a simple solution as to how you can save time and get inside that habit gap. Because people are like, well, when am I going to create new habits? I'm thinking, I just say to my clients, well, hey, do you go to the bathroom? Rhetorical question. They're like, I do. And
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
well, good. You must go 10, 15 times a day, possibly, right? Fine. Do you have a dry erase marker? Yes. Good. Let's go in the bathroom right now. Let's write some words on that bathroom mirror that matter to you. And I usually an affirmation that relates to
Yeah.
the problem they need to solve or something. And again, that's just getting inside the habit gap. And then sooner or later, they'll be like me. They have whole phrases and statements that they can say to themselves that just become a pathway in their mind. And that's neural pathways, right? We have to pave them.
Yeah.
I say to my kids, I say, you see that path there the rabbits go on? I said, it wasn't like that before, but today it is. And that's how it is in your mind. Once you keep paving over it with thoughts and words that really matter, and just simple things. Like sometimes it's just, I love myself. I like myself. I believe myself. I trust myself.
Yeah.
I trust in perfect timing. Just the little statements like that, because nobody's going to say those to us in most
Right.
cases. But, just give ourselves that little edge by giving ourselves the thoughts that are paving pathways that we can travel on later on in our life. And those would be our new habits, right? And then we'll enjoy them. We'll say, wow, this is fantastic. I do love
Absolutely.
my life, and I love myself and everything in it. So.
Right. Right. And those are, our fundamental statements that drive us, like you said, and getting inside what we value, and really making it into practice.
Mm-hmm. And it might even create new identities for ourselves, because right now our identities are based on our past, but that's a predictable future. How do you create a new identity? Well, you start crafting one. And some people are really open-minded. So some of my clients, I say to them, hey, Lady Gaga created a character for herself. Bono created one. How many people do you know in the world that created characters? And I said, well, if you're open about it, let's create a character for you, and let's become that character.
Yeah.
And sometimes that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. How about, you said you like to find new things that help you to save time and be smarter, right? Work smarter. What kind of, what are your go-to apps that you use that you think these are the things that if my computer were wiped and I had to reinstall everything, these are the apps that I would install?
Well, there's definitely two of them. So one that I use for creating new habits and for actually measuring, how things are going in my life is called Habit Bull. So
Uh-huh.
bull like a horns. So
Uh-huh.
Habit Bull is an app. You can actually use create five habits in there without paying a dime. So that's a nice bonus.
Cool.
If you go over, pay the $20.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but Habit Bull is awesome because it has a nice little calendar on it where you just either push it and it's green, or you hit it a second time and it's red. So you either
Okay.
did or you didn't. And
Okay.
easy way to measure. The other one is Todoist, and Todoist is an awesome app that I use because I plug in my intentions and my goals for the day, and I have it linked to my calendar, so it automatically blocks off time. So I do it the day before. Nobody can block off time or ask me for that time. It's blocked. And so
Perfect.
Todoist is awesome for that. It's also project oriented, so I can manage my project, my tasks, and track my performance. So those are definitely two that I would use because they're shortcuts for me, easy to
Yeah.
manage.
Awesome. Is there any other shortcut that you use, whether it's a mental shortcut or something like that, that you feel is really a driver for your success?
A mental shortcut. Yeah, let me. So I would think that it's just about. I ask myself effective questions. I think that nobody thinks about that too often, but I have so many, right? But I think just asking the questions: Who am I? What do I want? What do I know? What do I need to know? What are the opportunities I have before me? Because they turn on what's called the reticular activating system, and it's going to solve the problem. It's going to seek out and solve the problem. That's what we are. We're heat sinking, problem solving mechanisms.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's our makeup. And so just asking those questions every morning, you don't have to ask all of them. I mean, if you just ask, who am I, what do I want, and where am I going, those are good enough. But if you like the other ones, and if you even want to go deeper, you can say, what simple steps can I take today to achieve the goals in my life? What simple steps can I take?
Mm,
And as soon as you start asking those questions, it gets your mind tuned in and turned on and looking for the opportunities to solve this. And
absolutely.
yeah, and most people don't do it. Effective questions are not asked. A book that just came out recently by Mark Victor Hansen, Ask. A friend of mine interviewed him, and
Uh-huh.
so he's got a new book called Ask. But there's a great book called The Aladdin Factor, which is all about asking. That's Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, same thing. So
Uh-huh.
I've listened to that book multitudes of times because they plugged it in my head. Asking effective questions tunes us in to what we want, gets us pivoting and moving in that direction.
Well,
So
it shifts our focus, right? It gives us a director and really helps us to hone in on it. Einstein, right? What was that famous quote that he said was something like, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes of it coming up with the right question." I think it was something like that. And um, the having the right question and not necessarily the right answer, right? It's about really getting that right question, because that's going to help you to really move forward and solve that problem and create that direction. So I totally believe in that. I have certain questions that drive me, and actually another Tony Robbins thing that I remember from when I was working with Tony was we all have a primary question, one question that when we dig down deep, it's one question that we always ask that drives ourselves. And once we get clear on what that question is, we can see if it's serving us or if it's limiting us. And then we can look to move and switch that question. Like you said, identity shifting in a way. So
mhm.
questions are huge.
Yeah, and then when we start asking questions, we tune into the solutions, right? We end up causing our own change by nature. So I think that we just have to do it and do it a little bit every day. Deepak Chopra was the one who planted in my mind. Who am I? What do I want? He said, ask those two questions every day. Basic minimum
Just that.
necessities.
Yeah. Just that. Reinforce who you are, who you want to be, and what you want. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
And as you dial in, then you become this other version of yourself. And I call it a better version of myself. I mean, that's a question I ask, what can I do today to become a better version of myself?
Right.
And if I didn't do anything today, well, maybe it's tomorrow. But,
Right.
as long I can say I did something. So, just that little playing games with my family, that was something. Taking a walk or whatever, that's something. And I journal about it. It doesn't cost me a paragraph. It cost me 2 minutes. It's
Right.
very little. But I'm creating my own history, my own biography, if you will, in my own journal, so that I can look back one day and say, oh, those are little incremental things that I did. Because Ralph Waldo Emerson said that eventually we wake up to a banquet of consequences. And most people don't think about that. And I think about our mind as being a GPS and our thoughts compounding. So heck, we better, we better do something with that potential, right? And
Absolutely.
Einstein said, I think he said that, the same mind that caused the problem can't solve it. So we have to be a different, we have to be looking at things differently and from a different angle. Bob Proctor even taught that. He said, walk around the table, put that piece of paper, that problem on the center of the table, walk around to the left side, ask, what can I do from here? Or walk around.
Right. What do I see? Right. It's like when you look out a window, each angle that you look out the window, your view, you see something else. One side, you might see a tree. The other side, you might see a part of a car. So absolutely, you're going to see something different every time you look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's right. And then next thing you know, we start seeing solutions and evidence, and then we get relevance, and then we get more courage and more confidence, and then we step forward and, and we create new patterns of habits and new identity, make perhaps if that's what we want. And then we go throughout our lives and we get to the end of it and we realize, wow, I did leave a legacy, and, I did some great things. And
Absolutely.
we don't have to go like people in hospice. There's 5 things that people regret, and one of them was they didn't take risks and do the things they loved, and with their loved ones.
Right.
And that's the number one. So.
Right. So, before we shut down today, is there any last thing that you want to share with the audience?
Well, like I've been saying, I think it's getting inside the habit gap, and people don't realize that they have time. And that time is when you're driving, when you're getting groceries, when you're in the bathroom. These are times. Tony Robbins calls it no time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, no time. Well,
Right.
yeah, we have all sorts of no time, but we don't realize that it's no time, and we don't use it. And so we have to just use it. And so bring your headphones with you, or whatever it might be, or whatever. I even, as I'm working, if I'm not talking to anybody, I plug in affirmations and things all the time. And my subconscious is listening. I don't have to,
Right.
focus on it. I don't have to.
Your conscious mind might block it out, but your unconscious mind is listening.
Yeah, it's eavesdropping, listening in, and I just give it little bits of information every day. And next thing you know, I'm realizing something new, and I can't really tell why, but I can usually attribute it to something I did.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, your wisdom today and your ideas. Again, tell people where they can go to pick up your free gift.
Certainly. Again, it's Dan LeFave, DanLeFave.com/save time now. And honestly, we need to get control over our time. We know we have it. We just need to take the initiative and do something.
And that's why this show is called Take Back Time. So thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode.